You ever feel like you're stuck in a loop with your AI? You ask for something creative, maybe a joke or a story idea, and you get the same kind of bland, predictable answer over and over again? It's a super common frustration, but it turns out there's a surprisingly simple trick to break that cycle and really unlock the full creative power that's hiding inside these models. Just to show you what I mean, we asked an AI for a coffee joke 5 times. Now look on the left. With the standard direct prompt, we got the exact same mug to joke every single time. Kind of boring, right? But on the right, with just a tiny little tweak to the prompt, we get 5 totally different, pretty clever jokes. And that difference, it all comes down to a technique we're going to break down called verbalized sampling.
So what's really going on here? Well, we're looking at what researchers call the repetitive robot problem. It's this weird thing where these incredibly powerful language models that have seen, a huge chunk of the internet, somehow get stuck in this creative rut. They just default to the most generic, middle-of-the-road responses.
The technical term for this whole problem is mode collapse. And here's a good way to think about it. Imagine the AI is a brilliant musician who knows thousands of songs, but after we train it to be helpful and safe, it kind of decides that everyone just wants to hear its one big pop hit, over and over again. It collapses all the other musical possibilities down to that single, safe, typical mode. And in that process, all that amazing diversity just gets lost. So you have to ask, is this some kind of flaw in the AI's programming? An algorithm bug? Well, the research points to a really fascinating and kind of surprising answer. Nope. The reason the AI gets boring isn't a problem with the machine, it's a reflection of us. And this brings us to the real heart of the issue, something called typicality bias. See, during the training process, human raters are asked to pick the better of 2 AI responses. And subconsciously, we humans, we tend to reward the answers that feel familiar, that are easy to process, that are predictable. We just like what we know. So, in effect, we have accidentally trained our brilliant, multi-talented AI musician to be a pretty conventional one-hit wonder. And this isn't just some theory. It's backed by some really well-established cognitive psychology. You've got principles like the mere exposure effect, where just being familiar with something makes you like it more, or processing fluency, where our brains literally mistake easy to read for high quality. Our brains are basically hardwired for this stuff. We've encoded our own preference for the conventional right into the AI's reward system. Okay, so we've figured out the problem. We've accidentally trained our AIs to be a little bit boring. So how do we fix it without, retraining the entire model from scratch? Well, the solution is this elegant and incredibly simple prompting technique called verbalized sampling. So this brings us to the big question, right? If the AI is stuck on its greatest hit, how do we get it to dig into its back catalog? How do we prompt it to show us the full range of what it actually knows, not just the one answer it thinks is the most popular? And this is where it gets just brilliantly simple. Instead of a standard ask, like write a story about a bear, you just evolve it a little bit. You ask the AI to generate a distribution of answers, something like generate 5 stories about a bear and their corresponding probabilities. Just by asking for a set of possibilities, you force it out of that single collapsed mode. All right, enough theory. Let's actually see what happens when we put this fix to work. Because the difference this tiny change makes is it's not subtle at all. It is dramatic, and it works across a whole range of creative tasks. Remember that bear story prompt? Okay, on the left, with the standard ask, you get different versions of the same old bear ambling through the forest story. It's fine, but it's super repetitive. But on the right, with verbalized sampling, you get a bear who works as a tax accountant in Seattle, a celestial star bear coming down from a constellation, and a bear living in a forest made of glass trees. I mean, the creative possibilities just explode. And this technique isn't just about making things more creative, it's also about making them more realistic. For example, when you ask a direct question like, name a US state, the model totally collapses and says California almost every single time. But with verbalized sampling, you get a distribution of states that much more closely mirrors how often those states actually appear in its training data. It's a more truthful look at what it actually knows. Okay, let's try this with generating image captions. With a direct prompt for an astronaut on a horse, we get a very literal, photorealistic concept. It's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. And again, another direct prompt gives us a really similar idea, a realistic scene, just a different setting. It's working within a super narrow, very predictable stylistic box. It's totally stuck in photorealism mode.
Now, let's flip the switch to verbalized sampling. The very first result, heroic astronaut in a Baroque painting. Instantly, we've broken out of photorealism and jumped into a completely different artistic style. The next idea it kicks out is a retrofuturist rider on a chrome horse. Again, totally different genre, totally different aesthetic. We're not just getting slight variations on a theme anymore. We're getting whole new themes. And for the final one, a whimsical storybook watercolor. Think about that. With one tiny change in our prompt, we went from two nearly identical photorealistic images to a Baroque painting, a retrofuturist poster, and a children's book illustration. We've just unlocked the AI's entire stylistic range. So this is way more than just a neat party trick. This really gets to the heart of how we can be better partners with these AI tools. Understanding how to ask is becoming just as important as what we ask. And this simple little trick has some pretty profound implications for unlocking an AI's full potential. And look, this isn't just a gut feeling. It is quantifiable. The research paper actually measured the impact. They found that using verbalized sampling increases the diversity of creative writing outputs by a factor of 1.6 to 2.1. That is a massive, measurable jump in creative output from a simple change that requires zero new training.
And the benefits go way beyond just creative writing. For researchers doing dialogue simulations, it produces way more human-like and realistic behaviors. For open-ended questions, you get a broader, more representative set of answers. You can even use it to generate more diverse synthetic data, which in turn helps train better, more capable AI models down the line.
Okay, let's boil this all down. Your new AI toolkit. That frustrating AI repetitiveness? It's called mode collapse, and it's caused by our own subconscious typicality bias. The incredibly simple fix is a prompting technique called verbalized sampling, and the key action for you is to just ask for a list of possible answers along with their probabilities. This one little change unlocks dramatically more creative, more diverse, and frankly, more useful results.
And that really leaves us with a final, kind of provocative thought. The entire solution we just walked through didn't involve changing a single line of code in the AI itself. It was all about changing the way we, the humans, ask our questions. It really makes you wonder, as these models get more and more powerful, what other incredible capabilities are just sitting there waiting to be unlocked, if only we can learn how to ask in the right way?